important topic. I'd like to submit for the record an article titled, "She Fought for a Carcinogen, Now She's at the EPA Approving New Chemicals." Without objection.
Without objection.
Thank you. And this article notes that not only is the individual approving new chemicals a person who led an aggressive effort by industry to block regulations on formaldehyde, but another individual who was a former chemistry council leader is in charge of regulating existing chemicals. So I start with concern that if the chemistry council has been put in charge of the process, both for existing and new chemicals, I don't have a lot of confidence that true science is going to be honored. So that's a concern. I want to start by noting that the existing draft says that third parties can be hired to do the approval process. And Dr. Friedhoff, my concern is that those third parties might also not be entirely objective. Is that any concern that you might have?
I think what I would say is that EPA should be in charge of reviewing new chemicals. EPA should be in charge of reviewing existing chemicals. I think industry regularly gives the agency a lot of really valuable data and other information, but it should be EPA that makes the decision about whether a chemical is safe.
Thank you. I think that makes a lot of sense to me, and part of the reason I would argue for that position is that there's more oversight by Congress of what's going on inside EPA. Second of all, there is a low-volume exemption, and my team has filled me in that 600 PFAS chemicals were approved under low-volume exemptions. That's a whole lot of PFAS with different chemistries being basically bypassing the approval process completely. Given the known impacts of PFAS and how expensive it is to clean it up, does it make sense to have a low-volume exemption for tons of different varieties of PFAS?
During the Biden administration, we wrote a rule that made PFAS ineligible for low-volume exemptions, not because we didn't think the semiconductor sector could safely use PFAS, but because we thought the complexity of the science associated with PFAS required a more robust review. So I think, I think when you've got a chemistry that is complicated and chemicals that are persistent and bioaccumulative, those chemicals really don't lend themselves to a shorter review process, and really those chemicals should go through the full review.
And my concern here is that with PFAS, we already knew a lot about its damage in the environment. So therefore, a rule like that made sense. But the other new chemicals that are coming through the low-volume exemption, we don't yet know what damage they're going to do. So isn't it open the door to another kind of PFAS-style disaster?
I think it is safe to say that EPA should only proceed with low-volume exemptions for chemistries that it confidently knows enough about to do that for, and that isn't every single chemistry.
Right, thank you. And my colleague noted the equivalency concern, that if equivalency is given a bypass because it's equivalent to a chemical that was never in the first place reviewed, you basically have an open door to unreviewed chemicals. Do I understand that correctly?
Yes, you do.
So one of the things that I'm concerned about are the pyrolysis oils. And essentially, the industry says, well, let's just melt down plastics. And we know that a lot of fumes are generated that affect the health of surrounding communities, but that's a discussion for a different day. My concern here is that the argument put forward is that, well, these melted down plastics resemble naphtha, and therefore we'll just say they don't have to be reviewed. And yet, these melted down plastics contain an enormous number of additional ingredients, things that affect their stiffness, things that affect their clarity, their color, all sorts of different characteristics in different plastics. Does it make sense to have essentially melted down plastics bypassing the chemical review under an argument that they, well, look a little bit like naphtha?
So Senator, I think I share your concerns completely. There not only has EPA known for years that there are some kinds of plastic feedstocks that release dioxins and other harmful chemicals, but additionally, I'd bet naphtha's never been reviewed under TSCA in the first place, like the tens of thousands of other chemicals that are on the TSCA inventory. So I don't think the equivalency provisions ensure safety at all.
Well, thank you very much. My time has expired, but those are some of the concerns that I feel are important as we look to revisions of TSCA before this committee.
Thank you, Senator. I'll now yield myself some time, and looks like I don't have a lot of competition for my additional questions. I think if we
I yield as much time as you want.
Okay, good. Thank you.